Yeah.
Um, so Pam
Yeah.
Bondi told Donald Trump in May, "Hey, sir, your name is on this list." But Donald Trump denied that on July 15th. I just talked to Aaron Parnas about this. So, how
Yeah.
significant is this development?
I mean, I think this is a bombshell, Katie, and I, hesitate to use that word very often because it's like you said, it's kind of a cliche in the news world. For the Wall Street Journal, a few days after Donald Trump sued them, to come out with a story that says administration officials confirm that his name appears in the Epstein files multiple times. I mean, that in and of itself, flies in the face of, I think, what he said a couple of days ago when he sort of danced around the question. He was asked directly about this on the White House
Yeah,
South
what did
Lawn.
he say when he was asked, Jim?
And he basically said, well, it was Comey and Obama and Biden that they're the ones who did this. It's a hoax. And he just sort of went back to his talking points. He didn't directly answer the question. It would have been good had that reporter at the time, and I don't mean to second guess anybody, if they had said, well, you didn't answer my question. Is your name in the Epstein files? But his name is in the Epstein files. And what's significant about this, Katie, is that, he talked, he was apparently told about this back in May. Pam Bondi and other Justice Department officials told him back in May. And then what happened a couple of weeks ago on Sunday? The Justice Department tried to put out a memo that said, oh, nothing to see here with this Epstein case. We're moving on now. We're not going to release the files. Sorry, take care, bye-bye. And that apparently happened after they told Donald Trump that his name appeared in the Epstein files. So that raises a lot of different questions. One would be, did Donald Trump direct the Justice Department? Did he direct Pam Bondi to put out that memo? If so, that ties all of this back to the White House. And Katie, you've been in this business long enough to know when the White House is implicated in a cover-up, it's a major story. And I've been calling it Epstein Gate on my show. I think it deserves to be called Epstein Gate. I think this is a major scandal that's unfolding, and I think it directly threats the future of this presidency.
Yeah, but Jim, listen, I think that was true when you have some brave people, right, within the administration
Yeah,
who will
yeah,
come forward. And I think
sure.
maybe that's one of the reasons fealty and loyalty to Donald Trump was the number one requirement to be a part of this administration. If
Yeah,
there are not people who have not been corrupted in the Justice Department to pursue this case, if there are not
yeah,
people and Aaron was just saying the House doesn't have a lot of authority because they could say release the files and the DOJ could claim, executive privilege or get out of it some way. So, in order to make it truly damaging to Donald Trump and his administration, don't you have to have some semblance of people within the administration or a part of the political apparatus that will pursue this? And who do you see
yeah.
doing so? And then there's
Well,
SCOTUS, as Joan said, who basically said granting him full immunity no matter what.
yeah. Well, I don't know if he has immunity for things that he did with Jeffrey Epstein 20 years ago. I mean, that's, a horse of a different feather. But in the other question in all of this, too, a couple of different questions based on what you just asked there. Do I think that there are, honorable people in the Trump administration? Gosh, that's a very good question. I had Olivia Troy and Miles Taylor on my show yesterday, and they were saying, you know what, there might be somebody who knows something in the administration who might be tempted to say something. And those people need to understand that they should come out for the good of their country. If there's some sort of directed cover up coming from the White House, the public has a right to know that. And Donald, I mean, one thing I do know, Katie, from covering Donald Trump, his political organizations always leak like a sieve. There are people who are always going to be talking. And maybe that doesn't happen so much this time around. Caroline Leavitt is, sort of Sean Spicer and Sarah Huckabee Sanders on steroids. We're not going to get the truth out of her. But, the other side of the equation in all of this, Katie, is what happens up on Capitol Hill. The House Oversight Committee apparently just said they want to have Ghislaine Maxwell testify. And what did Donald Trump do just the other day? He sent his former defense attorney, Todd Blanche, who's now a high-level Justice Department lawyer. In what world is that appropriate or at all, on the up and up? He's going to send him down to Tallahassee to speak with Ghislaine Maxwell. Okay, are these
I
things?
thought she was in Connecticut. She's in Tallahassee.
She's apparently at a women's penitentiary in Tallahassee, and it raises the question. And apparently, Todd Blanche is good friends with Ghislaine Maxwell's attorney, so it raises the question: what's going on there? So, Katie, as you know, there are reporters all over this, like a pit bull on steroids, and they're just going to keep digging. And my guess is, if the Wall Street Journal has this story, they got 5 other stories in the hopper. Same with the New York Times. Same with every major newspaper in the country.
Can they compel, like, gosh, if there's so much to dig into with that
Yeah,
one answer, can they compel Ghislaine Maxwell to testify on Capitol Hill?
I don't. It's a good question. Apparently, um, she's been asked to testify. Whether or not she wants to do that, I don't know. That may have been something that was done to placate. I mean, one of the things that's been happening right now up on Capitol Hill, you had Marjorie Taylor Greene, some pretty serious MAGA Republican lawmakers coming out to the cameras and telling reporters that their phones are lighting up because of Jeffrey Epstein.
And Nancy Mace was one of the 3 Republicans who in
Yes.
the House who just, voted on that.
And Katie, I mean, this place, it's not, self-preservation is sort of the name of the game in Washington. And if some of these members of the House in their districts where, they might get primaried, and maybe they might get primaried from somebody who's going to say, why didn't Republican Congressman so-and-so, Nancy Mace, Marjorie Taylor Greene, why aren't they demanding the Epstein files? I'm demanding the Epstein. I'm tougher on the Epstein files than Nancy Mace is or Marjorie Taylor Greene. So, of course, those lawmakers are going to be clamoring for this stuff. And I think
Well,
Mike
I always
Johnson's
say, Jim, like the
yeah,
tipping point, is it gonna, when they start to hear from their constituents,
yes,
they move from loyalty to Donald Trump to concern that they're not gonna get reelected, right?
yes, and that's exactly right. And the other issue in all this, Mike Johnson just, in a very not so courageous moment, sent all these House lawmakers home for their August recess early. What are those town halls going to be like? Are they going to have town halls? I would start popping in the popcorn now, Katie. I would get all the toppings that you like. I would get those ready, have them on the kitchen counter, because these town halls are going to be wild. Because this MAGA base has not been satisfied, and now they know the king of MAGA, Donald Trump himself. His name appears in the Epstein files, and I just,
But Jim, this
yeah,
is one question I've been asking people.
yeah.
Didn't they know that all along? I mean, it's sort of a no-brainer. This is not like alert the presses, his name is in the Epstein files.
Well, you and I know that, and people who follow the news and are still in the reality-based world, people who are still on Earth One, it's becoming a lonelier and lonelier place. We're aware of that. But MAGA was convinced that it was just major Democratic figures who were in the Epstein files. And they've been hoisted on their own conspiracy theory petard in all of this, because now they've been basically told that the king of MAGA is in the Epstein files multiple times. Now,
Oh,
to
yeah,
what
I guess,
extent? Yeah.
I forget that a lot of people don't follow all these events or they get it from, you know, not legitimate sources, right? And they can just get affirmation instead of information. So they're
Yeah.
kind of in their own ecosystem, echo chamber and ecosystem. But
Yeah.
all right, so I
And
know,
Fox News has
you
barely
covered.
been covering it, as you know, Katie. I mean,
Oh,
they've
right. Fox
eh,
hasn't been cut. Now, what are they going to do? Are they going to ignore this Wall Street Journal report?
I don't know. I mean, Sean Hannity, my God, at some point, are you going to do this on your show? Jesse Waters, are you going to do this on your show? I mean, I have to say, like, at what point is there any ounce of shame? Are they just going to cover Tulsi Gabbard talking about Obama tonight on Fox in prime time when this whole story exploded today? I'm sorry. We're on the dark side of the moon. I think this is different. I know the folks who are saying that Donald Trump's like Harry Houdini and he could get out of anything and so on and so forth. I don't know about this one. I really don't.
Well, isn't there a chance that some pretty high-ranking, high-profile Democrats are a part of this and are going to be put in a really bad situation as well?
I think that that's a strong possibility. Apparently, according to this Wall Street Journal story, Trump was told that not only is his name in the Epstein files, that there are other prominent figures mentioned in the Epstein files, which makes me wonder, Katie, was Donald Trump told who else is in the Epstein files? Does Donald Trump now have that information? And, that
Do you think
doesn't
he
sound,
has a copy of the files?
maybe it's sitting on his desk. I don't know. But, it seems to me that we have a cover-up. We have an old-fashioned Washington cover-up going on, and reporters have a duty at this point to start asking these questions. And I think Donald Trump has to be asked the question, you know, to what extent is your name in the Epstein files? Can you please elaborate on your relationship about, what you did with Jeffrey Epstein? And
Yeah.
and did you have any relationships that may or relations that may cause you some political trouble now, or legal trouble? I mean, I think there's some major questions that need to be asked at this point.
Yeah, definitely. And what somebody mentioned, my internet is my internet connection okay? Can you see me?
I can see you. Yeah.
Okay, it says
I
it's
some
unstable.
Yeah.
But what I was gonna say is, yes, Rupert Murdoch owns both the Wall Street Journal and Fox News. And how do you explain the fact that the Journal has been so fearless and yet Fox News has been such cowards?
Well, that is that's a good one. I mean, I do think Tina Brown has a really good sense of all of this. She, I think, wrote a Substack the other day that said that Rupert Murdoch, this is where he thrives. He loves scandal and tabloid trash and selling newspapers with that scandal tabloid trash. And I think Rupert Murdoch is running a business. And what's the old expression? Never get into a fight with a guy who buys ink by the barrel. I mean, when Donald Trump sued Rupert Murdoch the other day, that might not have been the best idea in terms of his own self-preservation. And they've got good reporters over there at the Wall Street Journal. Josh Dawsey, Annie Linsky, they're both on this byline for the Wall Street Journal story. I've worked with them for many years. I believe they both came over from the Washington Post because of the Jeff Bezos stuff. And they're serious reporters. And if they're digging this stuff up, I would probably take it to the bank. And if you have senior administration officials confirming it to the New York Times, which sounds like that's the case as well, I mean, this is now a live ball. And in terms of Fox, my sense of this, Katie, and I've been talking about this for quite some time now. I mean, I once said that I once called them the bullshit factory on my old show at my old place. This is their stock and trade. They have become Trump state television, and they have existed as such for the last better part of a decade. And I think now they're reaching an inflection point, and some of the people there are just going to have to start asking themselves, at what point do you stop carrying this guy's water and covering things up for him? When his name's in the Epstein files, you're still going to do it then? I don't know. That's the question I would ask right now.
Well, it's also gonna be very interesting. Sorry, I'm pixelating everybody. I'm renting a house and so I have little control over the Wi-Fi. But, I think that you know, this this may change. Obviously, Rupert Murdoch is how old? 93, 94.
Yeah.
Um, and he's got 4 kids who have control over the future of Fox News, and we're talking about Lachlan, and he's the very pro Fox News, pro Trump guy. But then you have James, Liz, and Prudence, a daughter from a previous marriage, and so it'll be interesting what they do with Fox. But that's a whole nother
Yeah.
topic. Hey,
But
before we go, Jim, you covered
yeah.
Donald Trump for many years. Is he's going crazy, isn't he? I know Politico has reported he is
Yeah.
absolutely hating this coverage. So the question is like, uh, what do you think is going through? How can I ask you what's going through his head? But what do you think? He's. I don't even know what the question is. Can you imagine what he's thinking about all this?
No, I mean, I think this is a category 5 full on freak out that Donald Trump is going through right now. And, I base this on a couple of things. One, that moment in the cabinet room a couple of Tuesdays ago when he was asked that question and he flew off the handle, and Pam Bondi tried to say, "Oh, I wasn't talking about a client list. I was talking about the files being on my desk," which is ludicrous. I mean, the files would fill up several rooms in an office building. But the way Donald Trump flew off the handle, for the longest time, Katie, I kind of thought of like the Epstein files as sort of, this fixture of the far right, this fixation of the far right, something that they were obsessed with and so on. And Epstein probably killed himself. That's what a lot of child predators do when they get to prison and so on. But ever since the DOJ put out that very suspicious memo, and ever since Trump freaked out in that cabinet meeting, I said to myself, I said, what is going on with Donald Trump and these Epstein files? What's the deal? Why is he freaking out? Why is he's talking about Rosie O'Donnell, and then he's talking about Stephen Colbert and the Washington Commanders, and Barack Obama is guilty of treason. He's thrown out. He's basically unloaded all of his heavy artillery in terms of distractions that he uses on the MAGA base, and it has not worked. And I think that's what freaks him out right now, Katie. He has been the master of media manipulation for how many years now? And that bag of tricks, that dirty old Donald Trump bag of tricks, it ain't working anymore. He's looking in the bag and it's empty. And his name is in the Epstein files, and he doesn't know what to do with himself.
Yeah. Well, it's gonna be fascinating to watch. I guess the question I still have is why did they make such a big deal of this, Jim, during the campaign? If I mean,
Well, what
why
a
did they
miss.
do that if in fact he knew he was in there? And why did Pam Bondi talk about it early in the administration? It just
Yeah.
seems crazy.
Well, and if you go back and you look at this interview that he did with Sean Duffy's wife, I think her name is Rachel Duffy. She's also on Fox. And he's asked about it, like, would you declassify the Epstein files or release the Epstein files? If you go back and watch that video, apparently the full clip, he kind of hems and haws. He says, yeah, we should do it, but he doesn't sound like as full throated as Kash Patel and Pam Bondi and JD Vance and some of these other folks. And I just wonder, over all these years, he's just been sitting on this, wondering, is this ever going to get exposed? Is this ever going to get out there? And that's the big $64,000 question right now, Kate. We just don't know what we don't know. And if he's somehow implicated in an ugly way, it just changes everything here in Washington.
Aaron Parnas said he wouldn't be surprised if the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times had these files and they're letting them trickle out bit by bit. What do you think of that?
I mean, I think it's very possible. I mean, I wouldn't say that they probably have all of the files, but my guess is that some of it has been shared with them, whether it's through Ghislaine Maxwell's attorneys, I don't know. But it seems to me that, Trump must understand that they know more, the press knows more than maybe the public knows right now. And they're working through these stories and they're getting them ready to be printed and published and put online and so on. And that, as you know, Katie, is also going to contribute to him freaking out. And I don't know what comes after Category 5, but I don't think we have seen the end of Donald Trump, blowing his top over this. I think he's scared right now. I banned the expression "the walls are closing in" on my show. I will not say the walls are closing in because he is Harry Houdini and he's escaped these messes time and again. But I do think it just feels different to me as somebody who's covered him for a long time. It feels slightly more existential for him than I've seen before. And we'll just all find out. Maybe you'll come back and say, Jim, see, you fell for it again. Lucy in the football. But I really think the way he's been flipping out, it says something to me, and it says something that's not good.
Yeah, and somebody just wrote in, I think Joanne, that MAGA thinks it's or thought for a long time that only Democrats were on this list or part of these files.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, they've got nobody else to blame but themselves for putting themselves in this mess. They were clamoring for this, and Katie, I mean, I've talked about this. I don't know if we've talked about this together, but Donald Trump has made an industry out of conspiracy theories going all the way back to, I mean, I guess you could say the Central Park Five, but in particular
Yeah,
the
then
birther the
Donald
birther
Trump, the
controversy,
birther movement. Yeah.
and so on. And maybe this is all coming back to haunt him. The way he's peddled these lies and conspiracy theories and weaponized lies. I mean, he weaponizes lies in this war on the truth that he's been waging for the last 10 years. And it has done terrible damage to this country to the point where you have millions upon millions of Americans, nearly half the country, who will just believe him instead of what is being presented to them by brand name trusted news organizations. And at some point, I got to think there's going to be some comeuppance in all of this. Maybe call me a cockeyed optimist. Maybe I'm a little Pollyannish about this country, but I just tend to think that he's just not going to be able to outwit this and outsmart this all the way to the end. I think at some point this somehow comes back and bites him in the ass. Is it this case? I don't know, but he has played this game all these years, and this one conspiracy theory that they've been just having a field day with over the last several years is now, right on his lap, and he's going to have to deal with it.
Well, it'll be fascinating, as I said, to watch.
Yeah,
And Jim, it's always fun to talk to you, and it's great to get your perspective. Maybe we can do this again soon. I'm going to go
absolutely.
have a birthday dinner for my daughter, whose birthday it is today,
Happy
and
birthday.
spend some time with my grandson, who's 16 months today. So that's
Oh
been a
my
lot of fun for
goodness.
me. But,
Amazing.
everyone, thanks so much. I know you're probably here for Jim, but if you can follow me on Substack, that would be very much appreciated. And I'm enjoying this platform. I'm kind of new to this, but love talking to smart people like you and Aaron Parnas. So thanks for your time,
Yeah,
Jim.
you got it, and we'll do it live.
We're going live.
We're
Fuck
going
it.
live.
Fuck
Fuck
it.
it,
We're
we'll do it
going
live.
live. And then he throws the pen. You guys
I
have to
love it.
watch it. It's on YouTube. Okay. All right.
See
Bye,
you,
everybody.
Katie.
Bye.
Bye.